Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Barely Taboo podcast. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that is honestly never really talked about out loud porn. And it actually impacts our mental health, our expectations, and relationships in so many ways. So that's why we're going to be talking about it today with you guys. And I do have a fellow student here who's going to be discussing it with me. And I think it's really important to mention that we deal with a lot of stress, isolation, and pressure because of how rigorous Berkeley is. And porn honestly sometimes fills those gaps that no one really explains does to us. So, having these conversations are very crucial. And I'm excited to bring some honesty and break the silence. So, I'd love to introduce Angel, who's a Berkeley student and is going to be talking to me and answering some questions. And I just wanted to remind everyone that we're not experts and we're going to be sharing real experiences and trying to understand together how porn shows up in our lives and on this campus. Hi, Angel. Thank you so much for being here and thank you so much for being vulnerable with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, the studio is really nice.
Thank you. I did decorate it a little bit. Sorry to the audience who can't see it, but let's go ahead and start off with the first question. You ready for it?
Of course, I was born ready.
Okay. How do you think porn affects campus dating culture?
I feel like it completely destroyed dating culture and honestly just replaced it with hookup culture. Around my friend group, there are some people who are looking for more emotional intimacy, but the majority, they go on dates expecting to basically have sex at the end of it. And I've had conversations with them and they say it's just how they imagined college to be, the college experience. That's what they think the college experience is. And I tell them, why? And at some point, one of them told me, like, I'm not sure. It's just, then it always goes back to porn. They're like, oh, it's like a porno. It always goes back to that. And I'm never sure why.
I think that's a really good point. So like why do you think your friends think that way? That's really interesting that they kind of imagine it as like a porno.
Um, I never directly asked them because normally I would ask them before they leave. So I don't have a clear answer, but I'd assume it's because there's a lot of fantasies revolving around porn, and possibly that could be one of their fantasies. Like maybe it's like a section where it's, oh, like they want to go through these experiences in college, and that's what they want to experience. It's not my cup of tea, but it's theirs apparently.
That really brings up a good point. I feel like you kind of held back from, asking them why. So why do you think students in general kind of like hold back talking about porn and, you know, even asking for help at times?
I feel like it's just an uncomfortable position, whether you're asking or you're receiving that question, because ultimately it's something that, at least for me and my group, we don't really think about stuff like that. We're just thinking about, oh, when's the next time we're gonna go out? When's the next party? Or what are you guys gonna do after class? We, personally, I haven't had a relationship where I can be vulnerable enough. And possibly it's the same with them. Maybe I'm not enough of a vulnerable person to allow them to be vulnerable with me. But yeah, for me, I think it's just hard to take the first step. Like, as if you're going to the gym, the hardest part is walking through that door and starting. That's the hardest part. But once you do, I feel like it's a lot easier. But I think everyone's just scared to take that first step because it's an uncomfortable step.
No, I completely agree. I'm kind of curious, like, at what age did you like start watching porn? Like, when was the first time like you're like, oh, here's a video of two people, having some intimate moments,
I like how you avoided saying it. Um, I would think around elementary school, like maybe right before I hit middle school. And to be quite frank, I don't even remember what it was. I just, it feels like one day I just started, and I'm not really sure why. I don't even know how I got introduced to it, especially because at that age, I didn't even know what I was watching. My body was just reacting to it. Like at that age, no one told me about sex yet. So I was looking at this, I was like, what? Like, what's happening? And then that curiosity carried on to an unhealthy addiction, basically.
You know what? Thank you so much for being vulnerable, and for mentioning addiction. I mean, I personally can say that, it's really easy to kind of fall into that hole. Um, would you mind telling like me more about that? And, me personally, like I started watching porn, I think it was 6th grade, and it wasn't even like consented. It was a guy who showed me a clip of a girl giving a horse a blowjob. Can you believe that? Kind of crazy,
A
but
horse?
a horse, yeah. And I was like,
Oh my God.
wow.
Is that even considered porn at that point?
Well, she was getting hit in the back, you know what I mean?
What?
Yeah, so at the same time, and I know you mentioned that you don't remember the first time like watching it, like what the material was, but for me it was just like so stark that like I was like, what in the world is someone doing watching this and like getting any sort of like pleasure from it? Um, but when I personally actually started to watch it, I do also remember that video, funny enough. And it was like very cinematic, like very, very fake. And I remember looking at the girl and being like, this girl is not having fun. Like, pobrecita. I hope she's okay. Like, this poor girl's screaming and like being bent like a pretzel.
A pretzel's crazy.
So, yeah, so and then over time, like you kind of adjust and find like what you like to watch the most. Then I feel like that's where it gets addicting, especially when like you really learn to like it and you get better at it, like better with like masturbation and like better with finding a specific category or maybe even a person that you kind of like to watch. But yeah, can you tell me more about like your addiction and like have you surpassed it? Tell me more about like your journey with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, start off, I definitely surpassed it, and I'm definitely glad I did. And I encourage anyone who is currently struggling with it to let go of it because it eats at you. It's not healthy. It takes up a lot of your time that could be used for other things. A lot of things that could be more productive, that can put you further in life, not just put you in a hole. But yeah, for me, it just became a problem where if I was bored, I'll just watch it. That's ultimately where I realized it was an addiction because I wasn't even doing anything. I was just like, oh, like I have nothing to do. I'll just watch. And at that point, I realized it was an issue because I'm not getting anything from it. And I had definitely my ups and downs, I guess withdrawals, you could call them. But I'm most definitely glad that I pushed through them. I had an amazing support system to go through it. And yeah, I'm very thankful that I have let it go. I encourage anyone to let it go. Please.
So you did mention some drawbacks. So what do you think it was like the fact that you couldn't really find a replacement to like stop watching it? Or how did you fill in that like that gap? How did you resist? And can you tell like the audience a little more how like that affected you and that really made it difficult for you to kind of stop? If that makes sense?
To be honest, what made it difficult, it's hard to tell because it was just plain difficult. Like I would stop and for some reason I would be like, I want to watch. And I never knew why. Like I'm so sorry for being so vague, but it was difficult. I'm not sure how else to explain it. Maybe someone who is currently going through that will honestly get it. I feel like it's closest to an addiction to like a drug. Like you could be doing nothing and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I want this. Or like, I want to smoke weed. Oh, I want to take this drug. Like it just happens randomly and it's something that I would say you can definitely control, but it takes a lot to control it. It takes a lot of self discipline to control it because ultimately it becomes an urge and you need to make sure it becomes more of a choice and not an urge, so to speak. And I made that choice to let go of it.
Well, that's amazing. I'm like super you're very mature for that because honestly, there's a lot of like men that, don't even want to stop their addiction. So do you mind like letting me know what made you want to stop? And so sorry for my previous question. Like I know that like it's hard to answer these questions, but it's also hard to give the questions. So but yeah, like what made you want to stop?
Oh, you're completely fine. I know it must be hard being a host too. um, well, what made me stop is the realization that it wasn't, how do I say this? It wasn't a, wow, I'm really stumped. My words can't come out. Forgive me.
No, no, I
What,
get it. Trust me.
yeah, no, I feel like what made me want to stop was just realizing it was an issue. Like how I said before, like I could be doing homework, I could be doing nothing, and all of a sudden, like I want to watch this. And a turning point was I didn't even know why I wanted to. Like I didn't even want to in my mind, but for some reason my body was telling me to watch it. That I feel like that's when I realized that I didn't truly want to watch it, but it was my body just it was my body wanting to, I guess, so to speak. Like in my head, I was like, I don't want to do this. But then, like, it's like the angel and the devil on one side.
That's kind of funny because your name is literally Angel.
Exactly. And thankfully, I thought I listened to the angel and not the other side.
Well, I'm really glad that like, you shared your journey with us. And I honestly do think that it'll help a lot of, you know, young men who are, maybe in the same position as you who don't even know why they want to, but do anyways. And if you don't mind me asking, how long did it take for you to go through this journey?
By journey, you mean letting it go?
Yes.
Um, I would say it took me from point of realization, maybe almost a whole year.
Oh, wow. That's like a good period of time.
Yeah, what I said before with withdrawals and not necessarily withdrawals, but points where you break. that ultimately made it that long.
And like, how do you feel now that you've surpassed it?
I feel great. With my spare time, I could actually go do things. I don't have other things on my head. I can go for a walk now, so to speak. I can get a breath of fresh air.
You can touch some grass.
Exactly. I can touch some grass.
Well, that's really good, but I think this kind of it makes me think like, I think a lot of people would be scared to know that it takes a long time also to get off of it. But what kept you motivated to continue like on with this journey? Because I know that, just like for drugs, just like for like if you have an alcohol issue or weed issue, they have like pins to celebrate every day that they're sober from it. For you, did you like mark it in your calendar, or how did you how did you really like stick with it? Because I just to me, I know it seems kind of repetitive, but I'm just like in awe with how you were able to, especially at a young age when like I'm assuming all of your friends, like all the guys that are around you, are definitely still watching it.
No, yeah, most definitely. A lot of my group, they still sexualize women in the aspect where porn has affected them to do that. But for me, I didn't mark it on a calendar. What I did was I forgot where I read this from, but I believe it was like it takes 31 days to get rid of like a habit or like an addiction. And that's exactly what I did. I believe I don't remember exactly, but there was one day where I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do this, and I'm gonna do it for a set amount of time. And then after that set amount of time, I was honestly, I was good. And then at some point, I don't even remember how it happened, but I just had a withdrawal, and I ended up watching it. Regretfully, I ended up watching it. But as many times as that happened, I always came back. I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore because the times it happened, I felt horrible because I had a goal in mind, and I obviously failed that goal. Not right now, but in the moment, I failed that goal, and it really motivated me to know that like this is going to benefit a lot of people around me because I'm probably going to be a different person at the end of it. And I became a better person for my girlfriend and everyone around me because I became more, I would say, and emotionally vulnerable, emotionally mature, I would say, compared to everyone around me.
Well, that's really impressive. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story, and especially for being honest with us. I know that these conversations are never easy, but it's going to be really helpful for other Berkeley students just like you who are probably going through a similar situation. Um, and I just wanted to invite you to join us a future episode whenever you'd like, because you're amazing. Um, and I wanted to say a huge thank you to the audience for being a part of this conversation with us. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. Oh, okay. I wanted to acknowledge that porn is a real part of people's lives, and pretending it doesn't affect anyone, um, you know, isn't really accurate. So thank you so much again. I had a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you and have a great day. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Have a good one.
All right, bye. Hi, I just wanted to take a quick second to just mention that talking about porn is important because whether we like it or not, it's a part of our world. People are finding it at younger ages, it's shaping ideas about bodies and relationships, it's affecting self esteem, desire, expectations, And like how we discussed within this podcast, even addiction and mental health. Yet most of us are expected to figure it out completely alone and in silence, in secrecy, and sometimes even in shame. That silence is exactly why conversations like these matter. When we don't talk about porn, we leave a lot of space for confusion and pain. And for some, it creates a lot of guilt around their curiosity. For others, it affects how they see themselves for their partner. For some, it becomes something that they feel controlled by rather than something that you feel in control of. And when no one is talking about it in a real, honest, and compassionate way, people can feel like they're the only ones that are struggling. But you're really not the only one. And that's one of the biggest messages that I hope all of you guys watching this podcast can take away. And if there's anything that came up in this episode that touched you, anything that you recognize within your own story, even within, something that Angel shared, and you realize you have some questions that you've never really said out loud, I want you to know that there really is nothing quote unquote wrong with you for feeling that way. You're human, you're allowed to be curious, confused, conflicted, or even scared, and you're allowed to want better for yourself and for your relationships. Porn is not just what someone watches on a screen. It's connected to big things. How we learn about sex, how we think about consent, how we understand respect, how we see our own bodies, and how we treat other people's bodies. That's a lot of stuff to deal with. It's emotional, it's, why these conversations are worth even having. Furthermore, I wanted to really discuss how talking porn openly also gives us the room to discuss these values of, how intimacy looks for you, how does respect look like, and what kind of pleasure you prefer, what kind of relationship do you want with yourself and with other people. When we don't talk about it, porn kind of educates us in the background without even us realizing it. And when we do talk about it, we kind of go in that step and say, like, hey, is this actually what I want to believe? Is this how I want to act? Is this who I want to be? That kind of reflection is powerful. And I also want to emphasize that this is not about judging people. It's not about shaming anyone for watching porn or for struggling with porn or if you're feeling any kind of way about it. It's about understanding and being honest with ourselves and recognizing that you deserve to feel informed, respected, and not even confused. So within this episode, I hope those confusing moments, you gain some more of understanding with them. Discomfort doesn't always mean bad. Sometimes it just means you're bumping into something real. Growth doesn't mean that it's going to be smooth. It's going to be, sometimes it's going to be hard and difficult. But when we're unlearning that shame and learning how to talk about things honestly, you can have a moment to feel seen or even validated. If you feel challenged, that's something to explore with curiosity instead of judgment. Just wanted to reinforce that. However, either way, the fact that you stayed until the end of this episode / conversation says a lot about you. It says that you care about understanding yourself and for other people. It says you care about how these topics affect those around you. It says how you're willing to be brave enough to listen. And then I want to circle back to Angel. Angel chose to share his experience while remaining anonymous. And that decision reminds us that people are dealing with these things in private. There are things in every community that people are navigating, within their own relationship with porn, the relationship with themselves, relationship with other people. By listening today, you're giving space to those stories. By taking what you heard and reflecting on it, you're part of breaking that silence in a respectful and thoughtful way. And Angel, for listening to this, thank you again. Your story matters, your boundaries matter, your voice matters, and even without a name or a face attached, I know there are people listening who feel less alone because of you. As we close, I wanted to leave you with a few simple invitations. First, let's keep the conversation going. That doesn't mean you have to share every detail of your personal life with everyone. It can simply mean being open to talking about porn as a real topic, not as a joke, not as just gossip, but as something that actually affects people. Second, lead with curiosity, not judgment. If someone you love opens up about their experience, try listening the way you would like to be heard, with patience, with compassion, and with care. Third, if you feel triggered or heavy after this conversation, It's okay to reach out for support, a trusted friend, a counselor, a mentor, a support group. If you don't have, just hold it on by yourself as a temporary aspect, but there's a lot of different places that you can reach out to. UC Berkeley in particular has groups. I know SHEP has really been one that within my course seems like a very good resource. Honestly, I want to personally check out, so go SHEP. But just reinforce that you're not broken for having these questions. You're not broken for having these struggles. You're not broken for wanting more clarity or more honesty and more health in this area in your life. So I just wanted to say again, thank you for everybody who tuned in. Thank you for your time. Thank you for opening your mind. Thank you for willing to be able to sit and listen to this topic that a lot of people pretend doesn't exist. And with every listen, every share, every conversation that happens after this, all of it helps create a world where people can openly talk about porn and sexuality and boundaries without drowning in shame. A world where we don't just pretend everything is fine, but actually take a deeper look at how these things impacts us. If you found value in this episode, I encourage you to share it with someone you trust, not as a way to call them out, but as a way to say, hey, this is something we should all be talking about more. If you're listening and thinking, this is just the beginning for me, I want to learn more, I want to reflect more, I maybe even want to get some help, there is a strong and beautiful place to start and lean into that. So thank you again to Angel for his gratitude and for sharing, his stories that for me were honestly very amazing and inspiring to listen to. But that's not the end of the discussion, and it's just the end of this episode, but I wanted to say, everyone, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, real change starts with real conversations. And thank you. Until next time. 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988 at any time. It's 24/7, so if you're in emotional distress or thinking about harming yourself, they can also help connect you to local resources. There's also general mental and treatment navigation, SAMHSA National Helpline. It's 1-800-662-HELP, which is 4357. It's free, confidential, 24/7, and the treatment refers for mental health and substance use issues. Even though porn isn't a substance, they can help you find therapists or programs who deal with behavioral addictions or compulsive sexual behavior. And just for general education, I do recommend looking at universities' counseling center pages. They have good non-judgy explanations of porn use when it becomes a problem. So I really like the UT Dallas Counseling Center's page on pornography. So it kind of helps you understand when, porn use can be harmful. And there's also a lot of clinical articles on compulsive sexual behavior disorders, or hyphenated, it's or the acronym is CSBD. And so if you wanted to go on the World Health Organization platform, they have a lot of articles that kind of, educates you on the pattern of sexual health behaviors, feeling out of control, and, when you can understand when it's causing distress in your life. And then just specific hotlines and guides that I do recommend is the Addiction Center, the Project No, it's porn addiction helpline, and there's also some hospitals and clinics that help with recovery options for porn addiction.